Kia ora everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Word on Monday for today. This is Pastor Rewai Takau from Kaikoura Baptist Church. Just sharing the word for today, a reflection for us for this week, and I'm just going to carry on what we talked about yesterday at church. Welcome wherever you are around the world and around the country. Pray that you're doing okay despite all the things that are happening. Reading from what's the book? Romans chapter 12, starting at verse 1. Let's read it together, and then I'll pick up what theme we had yesterday. Romans 12, verses 1 onwards. Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing and perfect will. Yesterday I had the image and used the image of a rubber band in church, and talked about how the rubber band energy gets built up by twisting the rubber band and twisting it, and eventually if you keep twisting it, it's going to break. And the twisting of the rubber band can happen in three ways. Firstly, I'm the one that's holding the ends and doing the twisting. Energy builds up and fingers feel it, and eventually it'll break. Or at some point I have to let go one of the ends, and then the energy just releases out of that. The second form of twisting happens between I'm holding one end and someone else is holding the other end, and either I twist or they twist, and eventually as the twisting happens it builds up energy. And then the third way is I could be holding one end and I could be involved in a network of people, or a group of people, or part of a societal group that's twisting the end. And the examples for that is I'm holding one end, and it could be my work situation, or it could be my social situation, or my culture, or the hobbies that we're involved with. In either case, energy is built up in the rubber band by twisting and twisting and twisting. I went on to explain that this idea of the twisting is a pattern of this world, and it's often associated with stress or anxiety or frustration, and again I used the image of often when we come to the end of a working week, whatever that might look like for you, we're exhausted or we feel built up, and we do this self-medication pattern that goes on. And the self-medication can be have to go to the gym and let out all that built up energy. It could be going to drugs or alcohol or pornography or gambling, or whatever sphere that energy is released. People start following a pattern of trying to release the energy out of themselves, or out of what they're doing. The purpose of this illustration was firstly to recognize that there are these three ways of energy that gets built up, but also that we're all susceptible to it. We're all susceptible to this pattern in life. If you're human, we have these engagements that go on, and Paul is encouraging us in the light of everything that's happened in the first 11 chapters of Romans, and the encouragement that Paul is giving to the Roman church and the Christian community about how faith is established, and that's by faith that we're saved alone, being grafted into the new vine by the work of the Holy Spirit. It's all these things, that the mercy and grace of God, that we're able to be transformed by not conforming to the patterns of this life. I asked our community to take the rubber band home, and when they're feeling either they're doing the twisting or someone else is doing the twisting, to flick the rubber band on their wrist, to capture the moment that they're in, and to think about what's going on. If they did the twisting, why did I react that way in order to twist the rubber band, either in myself or for someone else's case? Is there something in me that needs to be renewed in order that transformation has to come? Is there something in my mind that I have to work through and allow that to be renewed to bring transformation? Is there a pattern in this world that I'm still following that I actually need transformation in? And so the flicking of the rubber band when you're doing it is to capture the moment and then to think about what's going on there. Why am I doing that? Why am I reacting? If someone else is doing the twisting or a group of people are doing, why am I reacting that way? And do I need to allow the Holy Spirit to bring revelation and transformation and therefore renewal into this part of my life? God's desire is that you and I live with Him and with each other in peace, in fullness of life. But our human experience, and we're seeing this globally, the Hebrew word for violence is Hamas. And it's interesting that in the place of where the biblical story started, there is the spirit of Hamas happening globally now. We're seeing it across the world in regards to the violence over the last 5 or 6 years. This is the pattern of the world. It's not the pattern of God. It's not the pattern of Yahweh, Jehovah, Adonai. It's the pattern of this world and the other gods that are in it, but not of our God. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And it's through our lives submitting to Him that we're able to have peace. The world was crying out for peace, but the problem is it's in the midst of violence. And no matter where you sit politically or geographically, violence is not the solution. It's a pattern of this world. Rubber bands have been tightened so tight now in parts of the world that the release will be an explosion. And so I pray that as we learn this in our country where we're relatively safe from extreme violence, that we're able to not conform to the patterns of this world and find new ways of allowing the energy that gets built up between ourselves, our people, our friends and relationships that we have, and release them in a healthy way. And maybe it's just flicking that rubber band until you start to realize the patterns that we are conformed to, and then allow the grace and mercy of the Lord to bring transformation to us. Nō reira whānau, he mihi tēnei kia koutou. I pray that as you go into this week, that you may stand under the mercies of God and offer your bodies as a living sacrifice to Him, and no longer conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Nō reira tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora whānau, have a great week and God bless.